Welcome to Below the Surface, the podcast where we go beyond the small talk and dive deep into the conversations that matter.
From personal growth to the complexities of human behaviour, we explore the stories, ideas and experiences that shape our world without the fluff.
Expect raw, thought-provoking discussions with fascinating guests and plenty of insights to challenge the way that you think.
So if you're ready to look below the surface, you're in the right place.
Let's get into it. So, who is Imthiaz Ghulam?
The best way I can put that is I'm a poor kid who made some bad choices, got punished, fixed himself, and through his own lessons, he's helping others. That's the best way I can put it to you. Alongside that, obviously, I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a coach, I'm a business owner. But essentially, that's who I am at the core.
So you got in trouble and you got punished for it.
Yeah, naughty boy. Naughty boy.
Tell us about that.
So, obviously grew up in a rough area, a lot of drugs going on. No real role models as per se. And the people that I was looking up to were involved in criminality, but they had a lot of respect. They had the cars, they had the clothes, they had the women, had all that sort of stuff. I was like, yeah, I want a piece of that. And I couldn't see any other way to get there apart from criminality, drugs, so on and so forth. So, yeah, in 2018, March 16th, it was a Friday, actually, I remember. I got caught, part of a sting operation, got caught with 2 kilos of cocaine and went to prison. And the rest is history, as I say.
So how long were you in prison for?
3.5 years I was behind the door.
Okay. And was that in the UK?
That was in the UK. So the majority of my sentence was done at Oakwood, HMP Oakwood in Wolverhampton.
What's it like in prison?
It's not that, I'll be honest with you, I loved it.
Yeah, because I've seen you said that you had a phone. Like, how the fuck do you have a phone? Like, how are you allowed to have social media in prison?
With every sort of governmental institution, it's corrupt. Okay, so the phone's coming through the front door. And what I mean by that is prison officers. So you'll have...
Sell them to you, like?
Well, what tends to happen is you'll have a guy who gets in there with a prison officer. He's either fucking her or something goes on and he incentivizes her. Because you remember these prison officers that actually live in jail. They'll be there from probably 7 a.m. and they won't get out of the prison till after lockup, which is going to be about 7, 8 o'clock. So they're doing a 12-hour shift. They're going home. They're going to bed. And then they're back in prison. Okay? And they're getting paid around about £2,500, depending what category prison you're in. That's fuck all.
£2,500 now a month?
A month.
Right, okay.
So, and you're dealing with the potential of being spit on, pissed on, shit on, cleaning up after people, abused, verbally, physically. And it's very easy to incentivize those sort of people to do nefarious activity. So, yeah, you'll have a prisoner who will get in there and be like, listen, I want to bring X, Y, Z in, whatever contraband it might be. And that's how they get in. So there's many a story about prison officers being caught coming in with stuff, people being tipped off, security being tipped off about prison officers. So, yeah.
What age were you when you got sent away?
I was 26 years old. I was 26.
And what's the first initial thought when that moment kicks in and you're like, I'm fucked here? What's the...
I can remember actually when they're checking me in to custody, I had my hands behind my back. Obviously, I was cuffed up. I can remember looking at my co-defendant, and he's in this holding room with a glass door. I remember just turning around to him saying, and he just looked at me and goes, I know. so like that first little bit in custody, because we went in on a Friday, I didn't get to court till Monday. So I've spoke about this before. I thought to myself, okay, what previous knowledge have I got of people being done with this amount of drugs before? I thought, yeah, I'm probably going to get 4 years behind the door. 8 do 4.
So 2 kilos in terms of money, what are we talking?
So this is what pisses me off. So they valued it at £160,000, which is street level. So I think, a gram was going for 80 quid at the time, whatever it was. I wasn't selling it like that. I was like wholesale almost.
Okay.
So I was selling to other dealers.
Yeah.
But they valued it at 160k. and it looked better than what it was in terms of the newspapers. But they were like, yeah, we believe you benefited this amount from this drugs, or potentially you could have benefited this amount from the drugs, but it wasn't the case. So you're looking, if you're buying it a kilo, I think round about the time they're going for like around about 30 grand. They go up and down. It's like any other commodity. I mean, I've seen it in the past when they've been as high as 51 for a box. But like any other commodity, supply and demand, the rules of economics still apply. So yeah.
And when you went in, like, were you thinking, oh, I'll just do my time and I'll be back out on the street again?
That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
I was like, where have they got me?
Oh no!
How dare they taking away the best years of my life? Yeah, my initial thoughts were, okay, let's have another crack at this, and then.
Were you trying to still work from inside prison?
No.
Okay.
No.
So when you went in and you go in and like you walk in the doors or whatever, like, do you have to, like, is this just a myth or whatever? Like, or do you have to show no weakness, make a name for yourself straight away?
Yeah,
like?
of course you do. So we went to Dovegate. I got remanded straight away, and you do get sized up, 100%. So I was with my other two co-defendants, the other two lads that I got caught with.
So you were all together?
Pretty much. So I was padded up with one guy, and the other guy was on the same wing in a different cell with another guy.
Took a little bit of the sting out of it, so.
Yeah. But you do get sized up, 100%. It's human nature. When you meet somebody for the first time, me and you, when we met, there's an innate part of us as men. I don't know what it's like for women because I've never been one, but you size the other guy up. Because ultimately, what's going to happen in the worst case scenario with you and another man, you're going to fight and potentially kill each other. Let's have it straight, okay? So yeah, that does happen.
Yeah.
It's just heightened because you're in that environment where, you know, everyone doesn't want to be there. You're all men, and there is a hierarchy. Whether people like to admit it or not in life, there's a hierarchy. And yeah, so you just fit into the pecking order wherever.
So being one of the big dogs, like, you're a distributor, right?
Yeah,
Selling to the dealers.
I mean, I wouldn't say I was a big, like, I'll cringe now when I think about it. Yeah, but like, like there's people bringing the stuff into the country.
Yeah.
Are you with me?
Yes.
That are dealing with a ridiculous amount. I mean, I've seen news reports of metric tons being caught. Okay, so metric tons 1,000 kilos. Okay, so you got people, but once again, it depends how high you climb. You got to remember as well, like, these people have a lot of protection around them in terms of people running for them or whatever. They have it's organized crime essentially. Me at the age of 26, I wasn't going to be a big dog, and thank fuck I wasn't, because anything above 5 kilo, you're looking at a 14-year prison sentence minimum.
Okay.
The more above that you go, the more your prison sentence is going to be.
But you were still above the people that were actually dealing.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Street.
I mean, don't get me wrong. When I was younger, I started off as a street dealer. I was selling 10 bags of weed. I can remember one instance where when I first started selling weed, I must have been 15, 16. Had a BMX. I remember getting a phone call for a 10 bag. So I rode there. It was about 40 minutes away on this BMX in the pouring rain, and I got there, and the guy didn't answer the phone.
Oh.
So it isn't like.
Yeah.
Are you with me? So I was at it for 10 years.
Is there any fear there, like, when you're that young, going around selling weed? Like, you
no
fear. You just didn't care.
What is the driver then? What is the driver of doing it?
It's financial gain at the end of the day.
Okay.
Respect. You know, when you grow up in an environment where certain sorts of people are respected, you want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was money. It was a respect. It was
The need to impress, kind of.
yeah, validation from your peers, from whoever, you know.
And was that just stuff that you were dealing with yourself inside, that you just thought that this was the way to go about it? This is how I'm going to get validation
you grew
here.
up around that. You didn't know any different, really, was it?
No, because, I mean, don't get me wrong, you had guys who went uni, but once again, you'd see them working in Tesco, so I'm like, fuck that. And then the guys that did do well in the area, I've actually linked up with them the other week. I went to buy with him, and these guys move away, and you don't see them for years and years and years and so because you're not seeing it, and you're not exposed to it, you don't connect the dots. So, you know, you do become your environment, and
It's a true statement, that, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. So that's what I was seeing.
So when you were, like, distributing to the dealers, Did you ever have to, like, you know, fucking ruffle up somebody who wasn't paying you?
Well, that's why we got caught. So one guy who
I can't get comfortable here.
owed some money, he didn't cough up, and then he got roughed up. I had his car taken off him, and then he's told his mum found out something's happened, and then we were under surveillance from that point.
So ruffling him up, would that be, you took his car, or would you be like, you know, beating the shit into him? Would there ever be any...
You want your money back?
Yeah, well, yeah.
You'd rather have your money back, of course.
Would there be weapons involved? No?
Yeah,
yeah.
There can be. There can be.
And to move up the grades, like, is there stuff that you have to do to prove yourself before you can move up the grades, or is it just by how much you sell, or
it's
for you to get where
you
you got to, like, how did you, like, what was the process?
It's the same in any business. You remember, drugs is a business.
Yeah.
It's about your network. It's about who you know. It's what value you can bring to the table. And depending what industry you're in, you're going to require a different set of skills for each industry. So the same applies to drugs. Same applies to that industry. First of all, are you smart? Can you handle yourself? X, Y, Z. That's how you move up. And also, do you stick to your word? If you're a bit of a div and you don't stick to your word, and you go back on your word, you got a bad credit rating, you aren't paying on time, so on and so forth, then you're not going to get very far. It's the same as any other business.
So how did you go from doing all of that? Like, what happened? Like, what changed in prison that you started to change? Environment
changed. And you're probably thinking prison, that's probably the worst place to be. Everyone's a criminal in that, obviously.
But if you were in prison, still having the mindset of, oh, as soon as we get back out here, we're going to be back at it again. So something has changed there.
Up until the point, because you sit around bigger dogs. You sit around. So one guy, Martin, I speak about him pretty often. So Martin, he was like 50, 51, 52 at the time. And he's finished off a 25 stretch. He's in for importation. I'm chatting to him. And he was good to me when I first was on the wing at Oakwood. He'd have old boxing matches on his box. So you have like a box. So I'd go in his pad, watch them. And he's a cool guy. He's just a cool older boy. No ego, nothing. And I was chatting to him about him, what he's been through. And he was like, yeah, man, this is occupational hazard. People come in, come out. I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to come in again. that doesn't really, because I thought at the time when you're 24, 25, 26, you think, I'm in my peak now. It's not the case, okay? I don't believe that's the case now. But you think they're taking my best years away from me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get out when I'm 30, 31. Nah. I just weighed the two up. I was like, okay, something else has to be done here. There has to be another way. And that's when I started to read, educate myself, and start to kind of shift my perspective.
Did you have a son at the time?
No.
Okay.
So Zach was born in 2022, August 1st. So that was around about a year-ish after I got out.
Okay.
About 10 months after I got out? Yeah, about 10 months after I got out.
So you decided, no, I'm not coming back here again. And you had a friend, an ally, Martin, now, who you looked up to.
Yeah.
So then, where did you go from there then?
So it was just a case of, I started to educate myself, started reading a lot more.
What would you read?
The first book I read was Mike Tyson, The Undisputed Truth. I'm a massive Mike Tyson fan. And in that book, he spoke about reading when he was in prison, and his time in prison, how he spent it. And he was reading stuff like The Count of Monte Carlo. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to read The Count of Monte Carlo. It was shit. It was fucking shit. It was the worst read ever, honestly. So, okay, I thought, all the storybook stuff doesn't work for me. So I started looking at informational books. I started looking at sales, marketing, so on and so forth. The human body. I got onto the level 2 and level 3 PT and gym instructor courses.
Was that through prison?
Yeah.
Oh, so they give you
so
access to all this. You what?
I didn't have to pay for it.
So they give you an education route.
Yeah. So I think
that's pretty good.
Yeah. So with the level 3, I think Oakwood at the time was the first prison to roll that out in the UK, and I happened to be on the first cohort of it.
And would they come into the prison?
So you had a teacher in prison. So Ben Watson, top guy. He'd really look after me because I get things really quick. When I'm interested in something, I pick up things really quick. And he saw that in me, so he kind of pushed me on. I became a mentor on that course. And then I started working with people with mental health. So I was like a PT within the prison, helping people with mental health. And you'd see all sorts of people, all sorts of problems. And once again, that gave you that humility to think, fucking hell, my life ain't too bad. And it can be a lot worse.
So with you actually wanting to help people, so what happened, like, say, internally in your brain or emotionally, that now you've realized that you're good at something else? Why did you want to help people? Like, what did you have, like, a sense of belief in yourself? Or
I've always been a facilitator, always. Even when I was selling drugs, a lot of my money wouldn't be spent on me. It'd be spent on people around me. Even when I was like, for example, if we're at a party, I'll be giving out coke for free. Have a good time. Do you get me? And I've always been a facilitator. And same with the mentoring. I found joy in helping people learn. Same with the PTing. I enjoy watching people get fit or just having someone to chat to. And then in terms of my development, as I've developed and I've looked into business, I've looked into psychology, so on and so forth, I can facilitate on so much of a higher level, and I can solve a bigger problem for people. But,
So did you get a sense of purpose with your life now that, there's actually, that I have a purpose now, and it is
I always had
helping
a purpose. This is the thing. My purpose just changed.
The purpose was?
My purpose changed.
Oh, your purpose changed.
Yeah, I've always had purpose.
Okay.
I've always thought I'm doing the right thing in the moment.
Okay.
I never thought, I wish my life was different.
Yeah.
Like, this is a flex. I'm on a podcast. What the fuck? Someone told me this 6-7 years ago. Like, fuck off. It's not happening.
Yeah.
But this is a flex. I'm taking the piss. I get to do this and it's work. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So never in my life have I said, I could have been this, or I would have been this, I should have been this. I've always been exactly where I want to be. Whether it was bad and on the wrong side of the law or on the right side of the law. Even in prison. Not once did I think, oh, poor me. Why does this have to happen to me? Why? I always knew I was going to prison at some point.
So you were ready for it, like?
Yeah, I didn't. Not once did I think, poor me. Why does this happen to me? Never. I've never had that attitude. I've never had that mentality towards absolutely anything. I've had family pass away. I've had friends commit suicide, so on and so forth. Nothing gets me down. Nothing has broken me yet. And I don't think anything can. Even in terms of close family members dying, I've spoken to my granddad and my dad and my mum, and this is really morbid, but I'm like, when you pass, I'll probably be upset for a couple of days because I understand the cycle of life. I understand, and I'm very, very aware of death, and I'm not scared of death, and it's an inevitability, and I always have that at the forefront of my mind. And when it comes to my decision making, it's made from the standpoint of death. I'm going to lose anyway. I'm going to lose anyway. You don't get out of this thing alive. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So even with investment, even in terms of mentors and putting myself out there, like in 100 years' time, no one's going to remember me.
Does that give you peace to feel that?
Yeah. It gives me courage more than anything. And people always ask me, you've done well for the amount of time that you've been out. Why? Because I'm not scared. Like nothing phases me. Nothing phases me. Don't get me wrong. I will have a bad day or a bad moment.
But you're not afraid to put yourself out there and try and
I get up the next day. I'll go again. I'll go again. It's for me. It's people are so tied up in. It's a human thing, of course, in self-preservation. Like you don't get out here alive. The money that you make, it doesn't leave with you. Your coffin hasn't got pockets.
Business idea there.
Yeah. So what you're scared of? You're such an insignificant little thing in the universe. Like,
why do you think people are so stunted? Like, why are they so afraid? Like, what's conditioning? Is it our
self-preservation? Ultimately, it's a normal human instinct, isn't it?
So you reckon you never had this instinct? You were always like, I don't.
Well, let's look at my track record. I've done everything in terms of since I was a kid. I was always against the grain. Always. I don't know if I'm wired different. Maybe I had a chip on my shoulder. I probably have got a chip on my shoulder, 1,000,000%.
Chip on your shoulder for what?
Just to prove myself to myself.
So you're not trying to prove yourself to anyone. You're trying to prove yourself to yourself.
there are people say, oh, I don't look for validation from other people. I think that's absolute bullshit. I think you seek validation from the people that you're trying to impress. And the people that you're trying to impress are above you. That's a great thing because they're going to pull you up. It holds you to a higher standard. But if you try and get validation from people that you went to school with that you don't really give a fuck about, that you're on your Instagram and your Facebook, that's dangerous. Just so, I don't know, Josie down the road says, oh, he's got a nice car or he's doing well. I couldn't give a fuck about
There's a lot of that, isn't there?
Yeah, I couldn't give a shit about that. For example, if Paul said, Imthiaz killed it this year, yeah, I want that validation.
Yeah,
That's the main driver for yourself.
That gives you confidence then to know that,
yeah. So this whole thing, don't look for external validation, it's a cop-out. It's a cop-out. Yes, look for external validation. Look for it from the people that are above you and are where you want to be. Once you get the validation from them, guess what? You're going to feel great. And also you're going to be performing at such a high level that the old version of you is just going to look absolutely minuscule.
Yeah, you just instantly level yourself up.
And especially with men need validation. Imagine you did brilliantly with your gym. We were speaking before this, you got a gym, okay? And you transitioned online and all that sort of stuff, yeah? And you smashed it. And no one gave a fuck. Not your clients, not your family, no one give a fuck. How empty would that victory feel?
I know, yeah.
So you need people to celebrate with. You can't do it on your own.
Yeah.
You can't. There's no fun throwing a party for yourself. You need people to validate you. So you need people to validate you. So this whole thing, once again, to go back to the validation thing, I think everyone needs validation.
From the right people.
From the right people, of course. From the right people.
But a lot of people tend to look for it from the wrong people. Like, say, asking, when I started coaching, and it was the same for Kieran, but people around us saying, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, you can't be charging that much, you need to have a safe job. But none of these people were self-employed or knew anything about running a fitness business.
How did that make you feel?
They're like shit.
Yeah, so
like absolute shit.
Why, Maureen? Why?
Why what?
Look at it from a logical standpoint. Have any of these people got a track record of running a business?
No, but that's it. But at the time, that's who I was around, and then I had to start to learn that, I can't really just let their opinions drive me when they don't know anything about what I'm trying to do. But it can drag you down, and people will try to drag you down.
Yeah. Never suffered from that. I don't really give a fuck. Like, honestly, I could not give a fuck what the next man has to say unless they're where I want to be, or I see him as a brother, and I'm asking for genuine advice.
Yeah.
And I won't ask Tom, Dick, and Harry for genuine advice.
But sometimes they like to give it without fucking asking.
Yeah. Let me tell you a story about my old man, and I bring this up a lot. We're on good. Me and my old man are like best mates now, yeah? But when I first started doing this, he was like, what? So you can sell diet plans online? I don't get it. Do you know what I mean? And at the time, I was like, yeah, you don't. You're not going to. You're in your 50s. It's not really something you've done before. You're not something you're familiar with. And then when you start seeing the money roll in, he was like, I get it now.
That's all that matters.
That's my son.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? So it's you can't let that dishearten you. And you shouldn't. Just look at it logically.
Yeah. So, okay, so you came out of prison, or you educated yourself, you came out of prison.
Uh-huh.
What was what was the drive then after you came out of prison? You were obviously PTing and mentoring.
Yeah.
So where did you go then from when you got released?
And was the temptation gone as well? Sorry to put you off.
Wasn't gone. That'd be a lie.
Wasn't gone.
No.
There's always that little bit in the back of the ear there, get back into this again.
Yeah, because legit works hard, innit? Legit works hard. Before, I never used to have to get out of bed for less than a few.
Were you not stressed? Like, was there not anxiety there? Like when you were dealing, like it's like.
No, because that's all I've known, really. Since I was probably 15, 16, that's all I've known.
Yeah, because when you think about it, one decision or one guy who gets caught that's selling for you decides to blab his mouth.
It's happened. It's happened. People have been caught, but it's like, yeah, that stress is always going to be there.
I suppose it's out of your control, really, isn't it?
The biggest stress for me is once I had my business plan together when I was in prison, probably the last week before I got out, I cried almost every night. Not through desperation, just because of fear. Because this was a new chapter in my life. I had to become this new person.
When you were engaging in like criminal activity, I know you've said that you don't give a fuck, but did you ever consider the other people in your life and the impact that your decisions was having
Obviously
on
not.
them? No.
Obviously
but
not.
have you thought about that now?
Yeah.
Have you considered that now?
Yeah. So once again, like if they were a consideration, I wouldn't take the action that I took.
Okay.
If they were a real consideration.
Yeah.
People say a lot of shit. Yeah, I care about my family and I care about. No, you don't, because your actions don't
Yeah, because you wouldn't do that if you
don't
did.
match up. Are you with me? So let's have it straight. So at the time, no, I didn't care. I just cared about myself.
You're in like a zone, I'd imagine, are you? Where it's just like, right, the next thing needs to happen.
Tunnel
here.
vision.
The
Yeah,
next thing
yeah,
needs to
yeah,
happen
yeah.
here.
And I'm like that with everything.
Yeah.
I'm like that with absolutely everything.
So then, when you came out, did you speak to your family, or did you apologize to them, or did you?
That kind of happened as I was in prison.
Oh, right, okay.
You remember I had a lot of time
Yeah.
to think, and I can remember ringing family members up that I haven't seen in years. I was like, I'm sorry, I haven't come to you. Because there's that guilt. And because you step back and you almost, one of my friends, if he described it best to me, he was like, when you're in prison, it's like you're on a desert island and your family come to see you now and then. They come feed you and they fuck off. Get on a plane and they fly away. That's what it was. I was in a bubble. So you get a lot of time to think, and every poor decision that you made in your life, you have to sit with that because it crops up. Things crop up that you can't remembering, if that makes sense. That you can't remember that happened. I was a bit of a dick to that guy. I could have done better there with my mum or my dad or my brothers or whatever.
You need silence, though, to sit in silence to see that. And that's probably where you've seen all of that, where you had no choice but just to sit there and deal with what came up. Like,
exactly. So
did you find it hard to face that stuff that when it did come? Or were you in a stage of acceptance and you were ready to take it on now?
Let me think now. I wouldn't say it was difficult, because as soon as I felt something, I actioned it. I didn't sit on it too long. So, for example, I had a bit of guilt about my auntie. My auntie's been really ill. She's got arthritis. She can't walk. I haven't been seeing her. At that point, I hadn't seen her for years. She only lives down the road. She's got no kids. She's married, but her husband is essentially a carer. I was like, I'm the closest thing to a son, to her. There was guilt there. I remember just picking up the phone. I was like, Auntie, I'm sorry for everything. She didn't get it because of the way that she is, with the illness that she's got. She's used to being alone. And yeah, it's things like that. My other auntie passed away when I was in prison. Once again, that was difficult. But I rang my uncle. I was like, same thing. He hasn't got children either. And I was like, I just kind of assessed how poorly I had done in every other area of my life. And yeah, I had to make apologies. I told my hand up and be like, I fucked up. I could have done better. And that self-analysis and that self-reflection and then also action in it is tough for most people, I can imagine.
Well, that's good that you did that, because there'll be a lot of men and women probably who just,
shows a lot of character. Like,
yeah,
to do
you
that.
had the courage to do that. But a lot of people wouldn't. They'd still avoid it and they'd still live in their airy-fairy land.
Yeah, because if it's keeping you up at night, if something's keeping you up at night, face it head on.
It's very hard to see sometimes that you're wrong, like.
Or to accept that you're wrong.
Or to accept that you're wrong. Even harder to accept it. To see it is one thing, but to accept it and then act on it is another thing. Like.
Seeing, I think, is more difficult for me. I can only speak for myself. Being aware that you're a bit of a cunt can be difficult. But once you're aware, I don't think actually apologising and kind of actioning it is that difficult. You're a bigger cunt for not actioning it.
Would you find yourself more aware now to how you engage with people?
Yeah.
And would you find that you'd if you maybe could catch yourself coming, I'm being a bit shit here. Can you just kind of catch yourself and be like, oh, hold on a second here now, have you got that awareness where you can catch yourself in the moment?
I'm much more self-aware than what I used to be before prison. In prison, that built that self-awareness because
sitting in the silence built it.
Not just that. Let's say you go on the wing and Marine's on the wing, let's say, for example, and Marine's got a face on that day. Yeah, you got a face on that day. I know not to say certain stuff to you or certain jokes with you that day. Not because I'm scared of you, because it's going to end badly for both of us. So you have to be aware of people around you. It's heightened. And because you're in a closed environment, everyone's emotions are heightened. You don't know what phone call you've had that night before. You know, or what? So sorry, I don't know what.
Yeah,
phone,
what I've had, yeah.
I don't know what phone call you've had the night before. I don't know what's going on at home. I don't know anything. And if I come on and I'm like cracking a joke, it can end badly. So that awareness
Just leave it,
is you've got to be a lot more aware. So I think that's where it's come from.
So then talk to us about how you've now like completely transformed your life.
Where do I start? So PT on the gym floor once I got out. Literally the week after I got out. So I lined up whilst I was in prison. Transition online, doing the body transformation sort of stuff where everyone kind of starts. Started to delve into more mindset sort of stuff, but now I'm creating. Well, when does this go out? Do you reckon?
It'll be a few weeks' time.
A few weeks, yeah. So hopefully by the time this goes out, I'm launching a new program, which is for business owners, and it's not a case of I'm going to get you first 10K a month. I'm working with guys who are doing well above that, and it's to bring them together, put them in a room, go do cool shit, build their profiles, so they're not secluded. Because I think a lot of business owners, especially at that level, what tends to happen to us is we tend to become secluded and isolated, and every single guy that I speak to that is in that position is like, my usual friends don't get it, and I've got nobody to talk to. I can't go to my friends about if I've got a problem in my relationship, in my business, mentally, personally, with my kids. Who am I going to go to? And because being a business owner of that level is rare, it's hard to connect with people that are of the same ilk. So I'm manufacturing that, and that's what I'm going to be pushing.
And it's currently, like, you currently work with a lot of men at the minute. So it's only men you work with, isn't it?
Yeah. I've got one woman on my books, but she's the partner of one of the guys that I coach.
All right, okay.
So that's it. And she's dead easy to work with.
Okay. So you're launching this program, and what is the goal for you in terms of, how do you know, what's your measure of success when it comes to life in general, not just business?
Life.
Yeah, life in general.
I always like to aim high. And what I will say is I want to create a society where there's been a net positive impact that's been created by me, whether it's directly or indirectly. So I'm talking about whether it's me directly through my content, through people working with me one-to-one, or the people that come into contact with the people that I work with. So we spoke, you heard me speak about impact and influence and all the rest of that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have a massive influence on society and how it operates, especially in the UK, because things are so messed up right now. I've managed to travel for the first time in 8 years. I've been to Dubai, I've been Croatia, and it's completely different there. And I do feel like the UK is just below that revolution level right now. Things are simmering. And it comes down to things within society that have moved away from tradition. And I do want to bring that back.
Do you think people are more capable than they think they are, or that they hold themselves back too much?
Yeah, 100%.
What do you think is the key thing that a person needs to understand to be able to unlock their own potential? There's probably not one thing, but if you could say that there was like something that, like,
Exposure.
Exposure.
The law of exposure. Once you've been exposed, you cannot be unexposed. Let's say, for example, I take you to a place where everyone's got a supercar. Over time, that's going to become your norm. A supercar isn't going to be such a big thing anymore. That then becomes your standard. Your ceiling has been lifted, right?
Mm. So could you put exposure and environment kind of in the same? Like,
yeah. So environment, exposure, that's going to be the key thing. And putting yourself in rooms and places and around people.
Do you see these? So for you to create what you create, do you see it first? Like, do you believe it, like manifesting it, or are you just through hard work and just dedication?
This is the problem that I've had. This is the issue that I've had. I haven't been able to find that environment, not the exact environment that I want to be a part of. So I've had to create it. I've had to pull in people. I'm like, listen, you know, I've been speaking to for ages who I believe would bring value to that. So I'm not going to sit at someone else's table. I'm creating my own. I'm creating a pond that we can all fish in. And that is going to be dependent on other people. Don't get me wrong, I'm part of other mentorships, but it's not like it's just to see how things are done. It's just to take knowledge from that. But like I said, for me and the guys who get me and fuck with me, they'll understand. They understand what it's about. And I'm just trying to create that pond. And it's a difficult process to get that buy-in. It's not a case of sending a few DMs. I'm having to get in person with these people. I'm having to let them feel my energy and my enthusiasm for it. So it's been a little bit more difficult than it would be otherwise. So I'm trying to create that environment for other people to eventually come into.
That makes sense. Do you have do you have a couple of different personas that you would use? Like, as in, like, do you have a business persona? Do you have when you're with your missus, wife?
Yeah. So everyone's
Can you switch in and out of?
Yeah. So everyone's got a split personality. When people talk about split personality, they act as if it's like a bad thing. Everyone's got a split personality. I took you through a process where we build an alter ego, and it comes from where I got it from was boxing. So I've recently got into boxing. I'm training a lot more regular, and looked at the psychology of boxers and fighters in general, and they typically have a nickname. And I heard Mike Tyson talk about this. Is, you know, he was Iron Mike Tyson, and he spoke about the closer he got to the ring, the more powerful he felt, and because he was stepping into this persona. You can't be the same Mike Tyson in the ring as he was with his daughter.
Yeah.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
So people have got split personalities, but it's about, understanding what traits each personality's got, which traits are favourable, which personality is favourable, in which circumstance.
About harnessing it,
and stepping into it. But you've got to be aware first.
That's true, yeah.
You know? There's a part of me that wants to sit on the sofa and eat Ben and Jerry's.
Do you allow yourself to do that?
Not really, no.
No.
But then there's a part of me that wants to eat well and wants to box and do all that sort of stuff.
And that want is more than the Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah, no, they're both probably just as equal. Probably the Ben and Jerry one. Jerry's one is like more powerful. But stronger.
So what stops you doing it then?
Why? Because I could ask myself, who do I want to show up as? Do I want to show up as Imti the fat guy, or do you want to show up as Imthiaz, which is the name I've given to that one? And then I've got another one maybe that's a bit more calmer, you know, and I'll give that a name.
I need to create a persona for myself.
Yeah. So it's having those traits and attributes, because everyone's got them within them. But then it's also labeling it. So, for example, how you might be, I don't know what you like in your gym or whatever, you might not be the same.
He's a fucking David Goggins type of dude here.
I like you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you might have the Goggins persona, but then that might show up in your personal relationships when you are seeing or facing, you know, somebody intimate with, a partner, and they're just not booking up their ideas, or they're just moaning a bit too much about, oh, this is what she said to me at work. Can you believe that's fucking happened to me? Listen, I've been there.
I'm getting better. Better. I used to not have a tolerance for like different stuff, but like I am harnessing it. Like
you're gonna have the version of you that's hard, tough, you know, screaming, who's gonna carry the boats.
Yeah.
You got that guy, and then you got the one who's empathetic and humble and has humility. That's the one you need at home. So you've got Kieran here, and then you probably got a Key over here.
Yeah.
So when I step into the door, I'm Kiki.
Kiki.
Yeah. So you can step into that persona.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing.
No. Yeah.
How do you find? Are you you're in a relationship? Are you?
No.
Okay.
No.
So how have you obviously have been in some sort of relationship? You have a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know how that happened?
So has that been something that you've been looking for or seeking? As in, you put all your time and energy into being this version of yourself. Have you noticed that it then has a negative impact on
1,000,000%.
on other areas?
1,000,000%, because I'm the standard that I hold myself to and everyone around me to can have a negative effects on my personal and intimate relationships to the point where that scenario which I've just described, that plays out. Now, with me, I'm not willing to have, should I say, I'm not willing to have a woman around me who is going to fuck with my energy. And people are going to say, oh, you should be more patient, so on and so forth. I haven't got time. Because if I really want to get behind the mission where I'm affecting society on a deep level, and that's my true mission, and I actually believe that, guess what? Maybe an intimate relationship or something meaningful might have to, go by the wayside. Maybe. And you see people who changed industries, societies, and so on and so forth. They've also had to make those sacrifices. Like Martin Luther King, for example, is somebody everyone's familiar with. When he was at these rallies, he ultimately lost his life for his cause, okay? When he was at these rallies and he was doing all these things, don't you think his missus was saying, oh, you're never at fucking home? She probably was. I need attention. Why are you not giving me this attention? That's probably happening.
But do you not think you would be like, Leslie and Paul?
This is the thing. They're both pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, but do you not think that you could potentially find someone who's on the same wavelength as you?
Very difficult. Like, for example, Paul and Leslie, that is like, it's a match made in heaven, From what I know, from what I've seen, okay? Finding that sort of individual, in the beginning, all women are like, I want somebody who's ambitious. I want somebody who works hard until it's time to get up at 4 a.m. Then it's like, you're too ambitious, you work too hard. So, are you with me?
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Very hard, yeah.
Yeah, women think that they want that sort of guy until it's time to be with that sort of guy, and then they don't want it anymore. And I think a lot of women actually just need like a normal guy.
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys that they're the fucking wet cloth. It's like, come on to fuck.
Yeah.
Do you know?
And that's happened because, in my opinion, that's happened because women in general are vying for probably the top 10% of men. 6 figures, nice car, so on and so forth, ripped body and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, cool. What happened to the average guy, the normal guy, who's got a 9 to 5? They don't want him anymore. So if you've got like 80% of women vying for that top 10%, you've got 90% of men, maybe 50% of men. They're like, what the fuck do I do here? Where do I fit in? And what happens with them? They go down the pub, they get on the drink, they get on the sniff, and they just repeat that cycle, and they feel insignificant and lost.
Yeah, but then a lot of women do end up with those guys.
Yeah,
and then they don't rise to the fucking challenge. The men, they stay small.
What happens is exactly what I described. I want this ambitious go-getter sort of guy, and they realize this motherfucker ain't got time for me.
But it's
so what I'm going to do? Sorry to interrupt you there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get with someone who's got all the time in the world, who's going to dedicate his entire fucking life to me, and I'm going to walk over him because that's what happens. I've seen it firsthand. Because I did a piece of content about this. You know those guys who are taking pictures of the missus where she's scantily naked and they put them on Instagram? Bro, that guy's not happy putting that up on Instagram, but they still fucking do it. Because no man likes that.
But now I've seen plenty of fellas now with a lot of my friends who, their wife or their girlfriend, they're the ones that's putting food on the table. Like, these fellas are fucking fleecing their pockets.
Yeah, because women are more masculine than ever. Because they have to be. Because they have to be. And then what happens is there's a big disparity to what we are biologically. And why do you think there's these things happening in society where men are super weak and they're just blotting all the time about insignificant shit and they can't handle the pressures of day-to-day life? And then you've got women who are pulling themselves almost, like they'll do the dating thing up until they're 40, have multiple relationships and then end up with on their own because no one was good enough apparently. And then you have the women in their 40s thinking, I wish I had children instead of these 2 fucking dogs that are going to die with me and probably eat me once I die. So that's what happens.
But is it a lack of communication? Like, So say this woman finds the man that she wants. He has a nice car. He's ripped or whatever like
Yeah.
that. Like if they were to have a conversation in the beginning, sit down and
I
put
don't
it
think
out
it's
there.
fair to say that that's all that women want now. I don't think that's
Well, I'm
fair
just
to say.
going from the scenario
Oh,
that
yeah,
we were
okay,
talking
yeah.
about. I'm
Yes.
not saying that I don't know what women
Yeah,
want.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't think I'll ever know.
Empty's like, but
But
no,
like,
anyway, don't go there. Don't go there.
if you put it out there and say, look, I'm going to be like, my time is going to be very
Yeah,
limited
babe.
here,
Yeah,
like,
that's fine. Yeah, I'll support you. All right. A lot of the time, it's not the case. It takes a very strong woman to facilitate a man like that. A very strong woman.
What if the shoe was on the other foot? What if it was the woman who was very ambitious and a go-getter and who was able to get shit done and it was and
If
the
I
other-
wanted someone like that, I'd get with a man. I don't want someone like that. Most men in that position.
most men I know are very intimidated by women
I'm
in
not-
that
So
position.
you're not looking for a
I'm not-
woman that's going to be as driven. Do you want a woman that is driven as you, or
When you say driven, what do you mean?
like career driven, successful driven, like yourself?
That doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter.
That does not matter to me. What you bring to the table financially does not matter to me as a woman.
But so you wouldn't be with a woman who had that ambition and who wanted to have their own career.
That's cool. You can do that. I'm not saying don't. What I'm saying is like, I don't want none of your money. Whether you succeed in that or not doesn't make a difference to me. I'm not going to see you any differently. I'm still going to value the same. But if that's the entire personality and what I'm looking for is somebody supportive, someone who can, understand, someone who is going to do the old school stuff like having food on the table and making sure the house clean. God forbid if you say that nowadays, fucking people lose their motherfucking mind. I value those things more. I don't care what money you bring to the table because I got my own and I got enough for you. So I'm not really bothered about that. I don't understand. I don't get it. I really don't understand that. The only time that I would be looking at those things is if I was incapable of bringing that in on my own. And I don't believe I am. If you're...
Would you see that as a weakness if you weren't able to do that and you were reliant on your partner?
Yeah, 100%. 1,000,000%. And there's men out there who, that is the reality for them. And then...
But that's what I mean. Sometimes women have to play that role. Do you know? Like if a man didn't have, we'll say people in heterosexual relationship, if the man was a bit of a wet sock, like, and he was relying on
Wet
a wet sock, and you had this woman who was very ambitious. Like say, for example, I know I'm gay, but I'm a very ambitious woman and I don't need anybody to look after me or whatever. So probably, well now obviously it might be different dating women, but men are intimidated by a woman like that. Maybe intimidating might be the correct word.
I don't think it's intimidating. You'll only be intimidated by a woman like that if you actually want to be with her.
But that's what I mean. If I was looking for a man, maybe I would struggle to find one because I'm able to fend for myself and I have my own goals and I have my own...
This is what happens. And with these women who tend to be, like you just described, very career driven, they get into their late 30s, mid 30s and late 30s without that partner.
But it shouldn't be the way. Like if you're looking for a woman to support you as a man, women should be entitled to ask for a man to be supportive of the woman as well.
That's how it should be.
Yeah, it should be like that. But
That's
the
what it should
woman
be.
shouldn't be expected to just stay at home and clean the house and put food on the table if they want to
That's
also work. And you work together as a team.
No, I do agree with you to some extent there, but in terms of what is to be expected of a man, probably the wrong person to be asking, but yeah.
Yeah, wrong person to be asking. But from a man, I would expect that care and understanding, all of those attributes, but yes, financially support the family and be there for the family and be reliable and trustworthy.
Yeah.
But I don't expect the man to do everything. I would prefer if two people could be equal, meet together as a team and grow together rather than you have to do all of that and this is my role.
I think the issue with the word equal nowadays, it means equal roles. We're talking about equal responsibility. So going out and providing, getting the money is just equally as important as having a clean house and make sure everything's done.
Yes, but I think you can communicate that, okay, this is going to be my focus and you have that. But I think both partners can still bring stuff to the relationship.
Of course. You know, and when men and women work together in their certain roles, and once again, people lose their mind when you say men and women got certain roles. Yes, they fucking have. Okay, it works really well.
Yeah, there's roles naturally that, but yeah, I think
it works really well.
It needs to be a team effort. I think
100%, 100%. But this is the issue. Both parties are getting the lines blurred. Men are becoming more dependent. Women becoming more independent. And why do you think the issues are happening in society? Why do you think there is, a massive breakup rate and all the rest of it, and crime and so on and so forth? Why do you think this is happening? Any ideas?
Because of that?
It's one of the main driving factors, yeah.
Yeah. I know times are changing, but I think if like that, if men and women could come together and see that, you can work as a team.
What's happened is the role of a woman has been been looked down upon in media. So it's like, if you're a stay-at-home mum, you ain't got shit on the city girl who's working, who's out there doing a thing. You don't compare to her. I actually argue the other way. The stay-at-home mum is doing the most important role in society by raising good children. That is way more important. That is the most important role in any society. But what's happening nowadays, maybe over the last 10, 15, 20 years, that's been now demonized. It's not seen as something that women want to do. It's seen as lowly. It's seen as something that's old school or dated. And why do you think we're having these problems? It's exactly that.
What about a stay-at-home dad? You said you'd like to be a stay-at-home dad, didn't you?
Me?
Yeah.
Mind?
Would you be a stay-at-home dad?
No, hell no.
But you could still work, like.
Huh?
You could still work online and stuff.
Have you ever dealt with a 2-year-old? No. The thing is, you got to look at, okay, if we're going to look at it from a point of view where it's just completely logical, who has a high earning potential in regards to, say my baby's mum, okay? Me. Because in terms of men, in terms of taking risk, they're more likely to take risk. They tend to be less risk averse, they tend to have better connection, and they can make shit happen, in my experience, okay? But
in society, like, men do get paid higher. In a lot of roles, you'll see that the equality of pay isn't the same.
That's false.
I don't think so.
No. If you look at the data, men just end up in better positions. So it's not a case like, for example, me and you are a CEO of a company. Your pay is not going to be higher than mine, and mine is not going to be higher than yours. Men just tend to end up in these more.
And does that come down to men taking bigger risks?
Yeah. That's what it comes down to. Men are just more capable.
Oh, I think we need to stop this, but I'm only messing.
No,
we are on time though. We are coming up to the end of the time.
Yeah, men are more capable in certain positions, but then women are more capable in other areas of life. So why don't we go about that?
Well, that's the good thing about debates, isn't it?
Why?
You can
But I just don't agree. Like, I think, like, plenty of women are capable of doing great things. There's a lot of great leaders.
But that's what makes it interesting. You can debate it then.
Yeah. I personally just think that's an unfair statement to say, to think that
the men are more capable of certain things than women.
No, obviously certain things, yes, but it kind of makes it out that women just aren't capable at all of doing similar things to men.
That's true in a lot of areas. Put a woman in a boxing match against a man.
Yeah, but a woman in her own category can still be.
I agree with you.
But they can still be like
in certain areas. So women and men have innately different skill sets.
Yeah, but how can you say that? Like, say a professional woman boxer and a professional professional female boxer and a professional male boxer, that the man is still better than the woman if they're at the same tier in their categories.
Well, if they fought at each other, what would happen?
But that's irrelevant.
No, it isn't.
How?
Because in business, like we were speaking about, it's competition, right? Is it not competition? Is there competition there?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Same way in a boxing ring. So if it's competitive, what tends to happen, men are better or more competitive than women normally. What tends to happen, they tend to go above and beyond because they have the capacity to and the capability to do so. That's what happens. So it's actually unfair for you to not make the comparison because it's both a competitive setting, it's both scenarios are cutthroat, and there has to be a winner and a loser when we're vying for these positions. And to say women get paid less, no, that's not the case. Women get paid just as much, but men tend to get the better jobs, the better roles, the more opportunities. Why? Because they go out there and do the thing. Women do tend to rein it in once they get close to 30. They start to think about family. That maybe holds them back.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Still, the thing about the I'm thinking in my head I have Katie Taylor, Conor McGregor. Who's the better? Who in your eyes is like a? You're going to say Conor McGregor.
Why would I say Conor McGregor?
Because he's a man.
No, because he's a more elite human being in terms of physical prowess and skill. Doesn't matter about gender. If Katie Taylor was, I'd say Katie Taylor, but guess what? She isn't. It happens to be Conor McGregor. When you're looking at the elite in terms of sports, we're talking about sports right now.
Yeah.
I just want to watch the elite. I don't care what gender they are.
You don't think Katie Taylor is an elite boxer?
No. Regardless of gender, I want to watch the elite. Regardless of gender. I'm not sexist. I don't care about gender. I want to watch the elite. I want to watch the best. Same like everyone else. Just like everyone else. Why do you think male sports people get paid more than women? Because people want to watch the elite. Nobody wants to watch women's MMA or boxing. Let's face it. The data doesn't lie. Does it?
No, I know that, yeah.
So this
but I
one's-
still think it's unfair to say that she's not an elite sports
She is
person.
elite. She's an elite woman. She's not elite, across the board. So once again, if you look at how people vote with their pay-per-view buys, who gets the vote? Who in the general consensus of things?
Oh, I know the men do in
So
terms
this
of
is what I'm
yeah.
saying to you. So if you're looking in the business world, like we were speaking about before, it's competitive, right? The amount of men applying for a certain high-end role is going to be significantly higher than women, right? Is it really that crazy that men get those roles?
Well, if they're applying for it, like, no.
Yeah, and also in terms of how far they're willing to go, in terms of putting themselves out there, building themselves, having certain skill sets that they're going to need to lead in those scenarios, men a lot of the time are going to be better. I'm not saying women don't get the jobs at all. Sometimes they are the better candidate. That's why they get chosen, right? And then there's other times where quotas have to be hit as well. These quotas are brought in for a reason, for this whole equality thing going on. But we'll have to agree to disagree on that.
So do you say like in the more physical jobs, like it's more male dominant, whereas in like corporate jobs, it could be a little bit closer with women and men.
It could be a little bit closer, but it's not, is it?
But in
There's
the
not an awful lot of corporate around us here.
What's that, sorry?
There's not enough. We don't have as much exposure to corporate stuff here.
or like just your general jobs, not so much corporate,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like your general jobs.
Women are better at certain jobs. Women are better nurses because they have that innately caring side to them. They get it. They're more empathetic.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You can't really teach that to a man to be more caring.
Yeah.
Women just tend to have it as a whole a lot more. And if I come out with a statement that said women make better nurses or carers than men, nobody would bat an eyelid at that. Would they? Because it's a fact. But when it's the other way around, people lose their motherfucking mind.
I know we're at the end, but before we finish, what is something that you would like to say to maybe somebody who needs to sort their shit out? What would you say, in your experience, from somebody who has been at this end of the spectrum and has now got yourself to the other end of the spectrum? What would you like to say to somebody?
We are only here for 70, 80 years. When you're on your deathbed, do you want to be that guy who says, I could have been, I should have been, I should have done this with my life? If the answer is no, I think it's a good idea that you get the fuck up and start doing something.
Get the fuck up. Soup. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed that little debate there between myself and Imti. Let us know in the comments and we'll catch you in the next one.
Catch you in the next one.